Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. In the Bhagavad-Gita, as it is, chapter 18, text number 62. On page 737. Nameva Saranam Gacha. Sarvabhavena Bharata. Tat Prasadan Param Tatim Satanam Pashyasi Shashvatam. Word for word. Tam unto him. Eva certainly. Saranam Gacha surrender. Sarva Bhavena in all respect. Bharata the son of Bharata. Tat Prasadat by his grace. Param transcendental. Tatatim peace. Tatatam the abode. Papasyasi you will get. Shashvatam eternal. Iskayana Bharta surrender him nightly. By his grace you will attain transcendental peace and surrender and the supreme eternal abode. The living entity, purport. The living entity should therefore surrender unto the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is situated in everyone's heart. That will relieve him from all kinds of miseries of this material existence. By such surrender, not only will one be released from all miseries in this life, but the entity will reach the Supreme God. The transcendental world is described in the Vedic literature, Rig Veda 1:22-20, as Tat Vishnu Param Padam. Since all of creation is the kingdom of God, everything material is actually spiritual, but Param Padam 3 refers to the eternal abode, which is called the spiritual sky or Vaikuntha. In the 15th chapter of the Bhagavad-Gita, it states, Sarvasa Chaham Ridi Shani Visto, Lord is seated in everyone's heart, so this recommendation that one should surrender unto the Super Soul, sitting within, means that one should surrender unto the Supreme Personality of God, Krishna. Krishna has already been accepted by Arjuna as the Supreme. He was accepted in the 10th chapter as Param Brahma, Param Dhamma. Arjuna has accepted Krishna as the Supreme Personality of Godhead and the Supreme Abode of all living entities, not only because of his personal experience, but also because evidence of great authorities like Narada, Asita, Devala, and Vyas. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Agyanatramdasya Chinachana Sakaya Chakshurimitam Jena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namah. Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Santi Yanti Swat Padantikam Vanjakopaturubhyascha Kritasindhuevascha Padnam Bhavnayo Vaishnavyo Namo Namaha. Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasudeva Gaur Bhakta-vrinda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Muskaya Bhakta surrender unto him utterly. By his grace, he will attain transcendental peace in his supreme eternal abode. Can anybody hear properly? Is it clear?
Yes.
So these are the last chapter of the Bhagavad-Gita. Text 56 to 66. Talk about surrender to Krishna. We find this word surrender in many places in the Bhagavad-Gita.
Which chapter?
Krishna says, therefore Arjuna, 3:30, therefore Arjuna, surrender all your work unto me with full knowledge of me, without desire for profit and no gains, for proprietorship and free from lethargy, fight.
Which
Yeah,
chapter?
3:30. Then text 4:11, Yayata mam prabhajante tam tataiva vajamyaham mama varno vartante misha partha sarvashaha. As all surrender unto me, I reward them accordingly. Everyone follows my path in all respects. One who performs 5:10, one who performs his duty without attachment, surrendering the results unto the Supreme Lord, is unaffected by sinful action, as the lotus leaf is untouched by water. This divine energy of mine, consisting of three modes of material nature, is difficult to overcome, but one who is surrendered unto me can easily cross beyond it. So this is the start with Brahma Mama Bhute Prasana Man Soshati Nakanchati Samasaveshu Bhuteshu Mad Bhakti Blamate Param. So due to knowledge, one surrenders unto Krishna, becomes fully joyful to the Supreme Brahman, which is Krishna. So taking shelter of Krishna is described in 1814. Because you are my very dear friend, I'm speaking to you my supreme instruction, most confidential knowledge of all. Hear this from me, for it is for your benefit. Always think of me, become my devotee, worship me, offer your homage unto me. Thus you'll come to me without fail. I promise you this, because you are my very dear friend. So surrender is there in all walks of life. This student has to surrender to the teacher. The husband has to surrender to the wife. Wife has to surrender to the husband. The children have to surrender to the mother and father. So surrender means that we abandon our own interests and follow the interests of someone else. So when you take initiation, you surrender to the Guru, and you have to follow his instructions. Tad vidi paripartena paripasena sevaya upyat janti tegyanas kyanasta vidarshanaha. So you have to surrender to the Guru, render service unto him, inquire submissively. He can impart knowledge unto you because he's seen the truth. This is the bona fide spiritual master. Without surrendering to the Guru, you can't surrender to Krishna. No one can go directly to Krishna. So it's a mandatory Ashray Guru. You know, Rupa Goswami says the first principle is that one accept the spiritual master. You have to accept the spiritual master, change your name. If you have a material name, you can't go back to Godhead. You have to get a spiritual name. So, this is surrender, and this order of the spiritual master should be followed. The third offense in chanting the holy name is to disobey the orders of the spiritual master. So, it's in our society, the spiritual master says that you should chant 16 rounds of the Maha Mantra, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. Every day, and follow the four regular principles: no eating, no gambling, no intoxication, no illicit sex. This is surrendered soul. So when devotees join this movement, the mother and father in the West even in India, they're not very happy because they think don't understand, and sometimes they usually think that it's just something they're going to do for a little while, and then they'll do something else. But when you surrender to Guru, it's a contract not for a short time, but for life. So one has to be very careful to follow strictly the art of spiritual master his entire life, not just for a few months or a few years or even 30, 40 years. Everyone must surrender and follow strictly the orders of the spiritual master. Material energy is very strong, and many of the disciples of Srila Prabhupada were swept away by Maya and were not able to continue with the chanting. But those of us who are strong, live in the association of devotees, then it's easier to follow Krishna consciousness. If you live outside the association of devotees, then it's more difficult to chant 16 rounds. Or if you get married, you have to get a job and work all day, then it's also more difficult to chant 16 rounds. So Prabhupada started this society, International Society for Krishna Consciousness, so we could all live together with the same interests and chant 16 rounds and follow the four regular principles. If you have one piece of paper, you can easily tear it apart. But if you try to tear a book apart, it's not so easy. So if you stay in the association of devotees, you stay strong in your Krishna consciousness. But if you leave the association of devotees and go outside, then you become weak. You will become weak in your Krishna consciousness and be influenced by non-devotees. So here, this verse says, surrender utterly. It says, surrender utterly or fully. This is demanding this verse, and it's Sarvadharma Prityaja. Surrender utterly unto Him, which in all respects one should surrender. So when Prahlad Maharaj was 5 years old, he was going to school, Sandhanamarka, the school of the sons of his Sukacharya, were teaching him about politics and how to be a king and rule people. He was teaching him about friends and enemies and this and that. And Prahlad Maharaj, he didn't like to hear these kind of instructions because he had, while he was in the womb of his mother, she was being dragged away by Indra, the king of heaven, because he thought another demon, like Hiranyakashipu, would take birth from this woman. So King Indra arrested this woman and was going to wait for the child to take birth to kill it, so another demon wouldn't appear. But Narada Muni came at that time and said, no, this is a woman who is chaste and sinless, and there's not a demon in her womb but a great devotee, so you should leave her alone. So all the demigods circumambulated Prahlad Maharaj's mother and left. Then Narada Muni took this mother to his ashram, and his mother stayed there until Hiranyakashipu came back from his austerities. At that time, Narada Muni instructed his mother, and Prahlad Maharaj heard his instructions in the womb. How this is possible? Because there was a transcendental instructions, and it was instructed to a pure devotee, so even though he was in the womb, he could still hear and remember the instructions. Even though his mother also heard the instructions, she forgot them, being less intelligent. But Brahma didn't forget the instructions. So when his father called him for the first time and asked him, he sat on his father's lap, Hiranyakashipu, who was always intoxicated and a very terrible person. And he said to Prahlad Maharaj, "What is the best thing you've learned from your teachers?" So Prahlad Maharaj said, "Shravanam Kirtanam Vishnu Smaranam Pada Sevanam Archanam Bandhanam Dasham Sakyam Atmani Vedanam Iti Punsar Pita Vishnu Bhakti-yoga Nava Lakshana Kriyate Bhagavati Ada Tan Manye Itim Uttamam." Prahlad Maharaj said, hearing and chanting about the transcendental holy name, form, qualities, paraphernalia, pastimes of Lord Vishnu, remembering them, serving the lotus feet of the Lord, offering the Lord respectful worship with 16 types of paraphernalia, considering the Lord one's best friend, and surrendering everything unto Him. These 9 processes are accepted as pure devotional service. One has to dedicate his life to the service of Krishna through these 9 methods should be understood to be the most learned person, where he's acquired complete knowledge. So these 9 processes are there, beginning with Shravanam Kirtanam Vishnu, which are the most important, hearing and chanting. But the last 2, becoming a friend and surrendering everything, that's not possible for an ordinary devotee. You have to be very advanced to do that. And Arjuna was Krishna's friend, and Arjuna is inquiring from Krishna that he doesn't want to do his duty as a Kshatriya, doesn't want to fight. So Krishna has to convince him that he should fight the battle of Kurukshetra. So Arjuna accepted Krishna as his spiritual master and understood that he should finally agreed to follow Krishna's instructions. Then, surrendering everything, the example of that is Bali Maharaj. Bali Maharaj was king of the heaven, and Vamadev, the Lord appeared as a dwarf, brahmachari, and Bali Maharaj offered to give him charity. So Vamana said that I want 3 steps of land, 3 pieces of land. So Bali Maharaj said, well, I have so much, why are you only asking for 3 steps? That's not very not very much. But Bali Maharaj, the spiritual master Sukracharya, said that this is Lord Vishnu, and you shouldn't give him anything, because if you give him everything, then I won't get my maintenance. I'll be in trouble. My Bali Maharaj was true to his word. If he promised to give, he had to give. And he rejected his spiritual master for giving him the wrong instructions. So when Lord Vishnu, Bali Maharaj gave him 3 steps. 2 steps he took. He covered the entire material world. So then Vamadev said, you promised to give me 3 steps, but now you only gave me 2. So where should I put my 3rd step? He said, you can put my, Bali Maharaj said, you can put your 3rd step on my head. So this way he was the perfect example of full surrender. King Kadvanga was fighting with the demigods for a long time, and then the demigods said, well, we can give you a boon, whatever you like. Ask for a benediction. So he said, I want to know when I'm going to die. So they told him that you're going to die very soon. So King Kadvanga at that time surrendered everything and perfected his life. When Sukadeva Goswami heard that he had been cursed to die within 7 days, he also gave up everything. He gave up his kingdom, gave up his family, gave up his animals, his horses, elephants, his treasury, and went and sat down on the bank of the Ganges or Yamuna to hear Srimad Bhagavatam from Sukadeva Goswami. So he surrendered his life at the proper time and attained perfection. So he sat for 7 days without eating or sleeping or even drinking water. Although it was difficult because he was hearing about the pastimes of the Lord and the Lord's devotees, he was not affected. So this is full surrender. Surrender, you give everything. The spiritual master orders you. And Srila Prabhupada started this movement in 1966, 67. He sent his fledgling disciples all over the world to spread Krishna consciousness. They didn't know anything. There was no books, practically no books at that time. They only heard Prabhupada's instructions, and they knew they had faith in the holy name. So one devotee went to Germany, one devotee went to a group of devotees went to England, and Prabhupada sent Brahmananda to Africa, one devotee. So they went all over the world because Prabhupada told them to do that. They were surrendered to Prabhupada's instructions. And they didn't know how they were going to be successful, how they were going to spread Krishna consciousness. But just because Prabhupada ordered them to do that, and they surrendered to his order, then they were successful to some degree. When Prabhupada was in Mexico, he told the best book distributor there to become the head pujari. And the devotee said to Prabhupada, no, Prabhupada, I want to distribute books. But Prabhupada's servant at that time said, you know, you don't say no to your spiritual master. If he gives you an order, you have to accept it. Same thing happened with Tamal Krishna Maharaj. The the devotees were complaining about him for taking the brahmacharis out of the temple for his Radha Damodar party. So Tamal Krishna Maharaj said to Prabhupada, well, you might as well send me to China. So the next morning, Prabhupada called Tamal Krishna Maharaj and said, now you go to China. But Tamal Krishna Maharaj said, well, Prabhupada, I was just joking. I wasn't serious about that. And Prabhupada said, you don't joke with the spiritual master. So either you go to China or you have no other service. Either sit down here in Mayapur or go to China. So he had to surrender to Prabhupada's order, even though at that time it wasn't easy to go to China. But somehow he managed to go to China and start the movement there even though it was very difficult because of this secret police, this communist country, and but anyway, he did it. So this is surrender. The boys were able to surrender to Prabhupada's instructions. And the definition of surrender is given in the Hari Bhakti Vilas. Anukulasya Sankalpa Bhakulasya Vardhanam Nasikyatiti Vishvaso Prapriteve Varnam Tata Amanik Sekpa Karpanye Sadvida Saranga Dahi. There are 6 divisions of surrender, are the acceptance of those things which are favorable for devotional service, rejecting of unfavorable things, the conviction that Krishna will give you protection, accepting the Lord as one's guardian or master, and full surrender and humility. So, this is from Chaitanya Charitamrita, Madhya Lila 22, text 100. It's quoted there. Where it says, the full surrender, accepting those things that's favorable, rejecting those things unfavorable, accepting the protection of the Lord, the maintenance of the Lord, the mercy of the Lord, and feeling oneself meek and humble. So the first one, accepting those things favorable to devotional service, and rejecting those things unfavorable. So this is a daily activity. Through our day and through our lives, we have to determine what activity I'm doing, whether it's favorable or unfavorable. If it's favorable, if it's in the within the compound Krishna consciousness temple, and in the compound, my service is favorable. But if I have to go outside, then there may be so many allurements which may be unfavorable, especially to eat something that's not offered to Krishna, or to associate with non-devotees. These things are unfavorable. So the devotee has to be very careful that don't fall victim to unfavorable things. And Lord Chaitanya instructed Rupa Goswami in chapter 19 of the Chaitanya Charitamrita how the devotional service begins with the Guru Krishna Prasade by Bhakti Lata Beach. At the time of initiation, the Guru gives the seed of devotional service. The seed is a plant. When you plant the seed in the ground, it begins to grow. And when that seed grows, you have to fence it around so that the monkeys and the dogs and the other animals don't break the creeper. And that is by following the rules and regulations and associating with devotees. That fencing. Then one has to water the creeper, which is by Shravanam Kirtanam, Vishnu Smaranam, by hearing and chanting and remembering Krishna. Then the creeper can grow very nicely. But as a plant grows, also weeds grow with it. So the weeds are the unfavorable things, like mundane profiteering, duplicitous dealings with devotees, offenses to devotees, wanting profit, adoration, distinction. These are weeds that grow with the creeper. And if one is not a good gardener, when you have a garden, you hire the gardener to take out the weeds, so the plants that give flowers that look nice will grow and the weeds will not be there. You have a nice looking garden. So if you're a diligent gardener, then you have to be aware of the fences of the weeds that grow along with the creeper. And those weeds, they look like the same species. So when it's not careful, the weeds will grow, and then the creeper will get destroyed, and the person will end up losing his taste for chanting and leaving Krishna consciousness. So this is a daily affair. One has to reject those things which are unfavorable for devotional service. Then we have to know that Krishna is the protector, maintainer. Bhaktaram Jagannathapasam Sarvaloka Maheshwaram Sridam Sarabhutanam Gyatramam Shanti Richati. And Krishna is the maintainer, Krishna is the protector, and Krishna, if you surrender to Krishna, then you can attain peace. And one has to feel oneself meek and humble. Janata peace and ichanatra peace isana amanina mandana kirtanya sadari. Lord Chaitanya prayed in his Shistaka prayers. I want to think oneself lower into the street, more tolerant than a tree, devoid of all sense of false prestige, and ready to offer all respects to everyone. So one to think oneself lower than the grass in the street. And this humble humility is called danyam, and is required that one has to feel himself meek and humble. Even one is a big devotee, he still thinks he's not a devotee. And Srila Prabhupada was in the airport ready to fly somewhere. All the devotees accompanied him to the waiting room. And it got so crowded, the airport officials said that the devotees have to leave the waiting room so the other passengers can come in. So they made an announcement, all the devotees have to leave the waiting room. So Srila Prabhupada was the first one to stand up and start to walk out. So they told Prabhupada, not for you, you're the passenger. So this is a sign of his humility. That the pure devotee never thinks himself very advanced, he always thinks himself lower than everyone else. In actuality, he's higher than everyone else. But this pratishta, wanting name and fame, profit, adoration, distinction, this is unwanted. Getting very proud. If you have too many disciples, accumulation of wealth, that destroys one's devotional service. So whatever position one is in, he has to always remain in the humble position. Otherwise, there's every chance of falling down from Krishna consciousness. So in this way, surrender is an integral part of Krishna consciousness. It's daily. We have to surrender daily. Every day, we have to rise early in the morning. The spiritual master orders you to do something that you would not ordinarily do. You have to do it. And he tells you not to do something that you would not do, then you have to do that. So Prabhupada told everyone you have to rise before 4 o'clock in the morning. And that's very difficult for someone coming from the material world, material life. In the material world, everyone likes to stay up till 1, 2 o'clock in the morning and sleep all morning. And we're getting up at 4 o'clock and they're sleeping. And sometimes had temples in residential areas and they'd call the police because we were bothering them because we're having kirtan at 4 o'clock in the morning. So we had to get up at 4 o'clock in the morning, even though it's not something we would ordinarily do, because it's difficult. But we take rest early, get up early to bed, early to rise, makes one healthy, happy, and wise. So because the spiritual master ordered it, then we had Mangal Artik every day at 4 o'clock. Not like the ordinary people want to be in the mode of ignorance. They think sleeping is something nice, and the more sleep I can get, they think they're happy by sleeping as much as possible. So they sleep 10, 12 hours a day. And Prahlad Maharaj said, 50% of our life, if you live to be 100 years old, 50 years of your life is wasted sleeping. When Prabhupada went to take rest at 10 o'clock, he would take rest at 10 and wake up at 12. So he said, I'm going to take rest now, I'm going to waste my time. So the devotees, we don't like to waste our time. We utilize our time. And it's not that we don't sleep. We sleep 6 or 7 hours every day. That's required. It's not that you have to sleep like the Goswamis. They only slept 1 hour every day, or 1.5 hours. We can't imitate the Goswamis. We have to sleep, we have to eat, we have to maintain our body so we can preach Krishna consciousness. But we do it under the order of the spiritual master. So the spiritual master says you should only take Krishna prasadam. So so many restaurants there, so many places, so much food is available nowadays that's not Krishna prasadam. So we shouldn't accept that. And if we have to travel, you bring your own prasadam. You shouldn't eat in hotels, restaurants, or airplanes, because it's not cooked by devotees. If you eat food cooked by non-devotees, it will make your mind wicked. So, in emergency cases, Prabhupada told the library party that they could eat at a restaurant if it was pure vegetarian, no meat, fish, or eggs, and onions and garlic. But that was according to time, place, and circumstance. But otherwise, we have to be careful that we only eat Krishna prasadam. We don't eat anything else, anything not offered to Krishna. So in this way, our daily lives are surrendered to the Guru, to the orders of the Guru, and to the orders of the Guru. And if you please the Guru, then Krishna is pleased. Yasya prasada bhagavad prasada, yasya prasada narakinta gopi. So in this way, we are like the pet dog of the spiritual master. Time initiation, we put on the Kunti Mala, the Tulsi Mala. This is our dog collar. And one who wears these Tulsi Mala means they're surrendered to the spiritual master. And so that in this way, one becomes a surrendered soul. So in this verse, it says that the result of surrendering to Krishna, one become relieved from all kinds of miseries. And in this life, he will be able to reach Vaikuntha, or the spiritual world. So, that is the goal of life, Nate Vidu Sarvagatim Hi Vishnu. And of course, the miseries are always there, suffering is always there because we have a material body influenced by the three modes of material nature. So we can't avoid suffering. But by practicing Krishna consciousness, we learn to tolerate the suffering as much as possible. Especially in old age, the eyes go bad, the teeth fall out, the ears go bad, the stomach doesn't work much, you can't eat it much. Everything is, it's like an old car. All the parts start breaking down very quickly, especially in old age. So the devotees, we see the devotees are still pushing themselves in the Krishna consciousness, spread Krishna consciousness all over the world. Many are sannyasis, Prabhupada disciples, they're now over 70 years old, but they're still very active, even though they're facing so many bodily difficulties. But because of Paramjishvara and Vartante, they're getting a higher taste from Krishna consciousness, and Krishna Vina Shakti, because Krishna has empowered them to do certain things, to preach Krishna consciousness. They're able to continue even though they're having so many difficulties. Generally, when one reaches the age of 70, he retires, sits in one place. But Prabhupada wasn't satisfied to sit in Vrindavan. At the age of 69, he went and was determined to carry out the orders of his spiritual master. Spiritual master ordered him to preach Krishna consciousness in the English-speaking world. So instead of remaining in Vrindavan at the Radha Damodar temple, living a very peaceful life, doing his bhajan, he left that place and got the passage on the Jaladuta steamship, cargo ship, and went to America, even though he had experienced 2 heart attacks on the boat, and somehow he recovered and went to America, and after 1 year he was able to form the International Society for Krishna Consciousness, and gradually it grew more and more. So if we practice Krishna consciousness our whole life, it says in this life, at the end we'll go to Vaikuntha. So if you're practicing Vaidhi Bhakti, you go to Vaikuntha. But if you're practicing Raganuga Bhakti, then you go to Golok, but first you have to take birth from the gopi, somewhere where Krishna is having his Nitya Lila in this world, and perfect your life, get trained up, and then you go to Golok. So you can't go to Golok from Vaidhi Bhakti. You have to be practicing Raga Bhakti. You have to be 100% pure and have understand your identity as a spirit soul, your identity in relationship with Krishna, and have love for Krishna. Then you can go to Golok. So it says when a Kura was coming to Vrindavan that you can't buy a ticket to Vrindavan. So that means you can't buy a ticket to Vrindavan. You can only price. You have to pay the price, which is loyam. Loyam means greedy. You have to be greedy to become Krishna conscious, and that comes when you're on the stage of asakti, when you're no longer affected, have any material contamination or any material desire. When you're 100% purified, then you can be greedy to become Krishna conscious, like the gopis. For example, this greed or love, when they heard Krishna play his flute in the dead of night, they abandoned everything. Some were feeding their babies, they left their babies, they left their husbands, they left their house, they left everything. So that some of them didn't even dress themselves properly, but because Krishna played his flute and called them to come for rasa dance, they immediately dropped everything. So because they were greedy for this, you get the association of Krishna, but it should never be considered material. It was spiritual, on the spiritual platform, had nothing to do with material lust or anything of the material world. It was all by the arrangement of Yoga Maya, not Mahamaya. So therefore, the goal of Krishna consciousness is not have to remain here in the material world and suffer repeated birth and death. So our time is up. Anybody have any comments, questions?
Hare Krishna. Prabhu, as you were speaking about the prasadam, that we should always take prasadam, we shouldn't take prasad outside. Now I want to inquire, the prasad which we take, that is for the body or for the soul?
Is that a good question? Is prasadam for the body or the soul?
Prasadam for body or soul?
Well, no. It's for the body, to maintain our body. The soul doesn't need to eat. The soul's eternal, Satchidananda. But because we're in the body, and we have to maintain the body, till we come to the platform, the Brahma-Bhuta platform, where we understand we're not this body, and you can go out eating like Madhavendra Puri. He didn't ever ask anyone for food. If he didn't get food, he'd fast. If he got food, he'd eat. But we're not on that platform. So we have to maintain the body. So we have to take what is required. We can separate. You can't separate the two. The soul, until you understand I'm a spirit soul, then you have to maintain the body. When you understand I'm not this body, I'm a spirit soul, Aham Brahmasmi, then you don't require to take. Sometimes when Lord Chaitanya was in Vrindavan, he ate and slept out of habit only. So a devotee, he forgets he even has a body. He does those things out of habit. So the soul doesn't need anything, but the body does. So we can't separate the two until we realize we're not this body. Anybody else?
Hare Krishna. Prabhuji, my understanding prasadam means prasadam cooked even in a temple or at home by devotees who are chanting at least 16 rounds or 8 rounds according to capacity and cooking and offering with love and devotion. I have seen in many temples, even here also I have seen prasadam is cooked by the professionals, laborers, employees. Will it become prasadam? Just because will it become prasadam? The food cooked by the laborers or employees, employed people, and offered, will it be accepted as a prasadam?
Well, Prabhupada said you could hire cooks, Brahmins, to cook, and everyone else should go out on Sankirtan. So, if we hire people are contaminated, then anyway, generally whatever's cooked we offer first to Krishna. So they should only hire qualified people to cook. If they don't hire, if people are cooking aren't qualified, then the prasadam is not the highest quality. But the devotees have no choice. They have to take whatever's provided. It's not the best standard, but at least the people who are cooking should be vegetarian and shouldn't be smoking bidis or doing sinful activities. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Antarad Bhagavad-Gita ki jai.